Chapter 736, Third Chair. Senor, in his wraith form, passed through the thick soil and rocks under Klein's control, arriving beside Sharon. He saw a damaged armrest which had asymmetrical patterns buried there, looking rather similar, but also different from the splinters they discovered moments ago. The armrest wasn't pure black in color. Their patterns exuded a dark red color, as though it was an intersection of iron and blood. Recalling the scene from his nightmare, Klein determined that this wasn't the high-back chair that the entity suspected to be Medici sat on. This was the second chair. The room that sealed the evil spirit had at least 2 high-back chairs. Klein and Sharon didn't say a word as they circled around in different directions to search for other clues. Before long, they discovered the evidence of a third high-back chair. It was the leg of a chair, mainly dark red in color with pure black patterns. It was completely different from the other 2 kinds of splinters.
Perhaps it's a problem caused by the asymmetrical trait of the fourth epoch.
Klein knew Sharon's style, volunteering to speak and saying something even he couldn't believe. In the nightmare that resulted from the evil spirit's influence, the colors of the high-back chairs were, at the very least, uniform. Sharon shook her head slightly.
3 has more of a ritualistic feel.
She was implying that the innocent victims of Blood Emperor Alistitutor weren't just one person back then. Perhaps a ritual had been held in the room that sealed the evil spirit. Klein was taken aback by what he heard as a scene flashed through his mind. In a spacious and dark room, 3 high-back chairs of different styles were placed around a particular point in the center. And sitting on each chair was a breathless humanoid creature with a drooping head. Among them included Red Angel Medici. The scene became clearer as Klein instantly connected 2 additional matters together. The main ingredients of the Sequence 0 Black Emperor's potion is the uniqueness and 2 Sequence 1 Beyonder characteristics, excluding one's own Beyonder characteristic. Blood Emperor Alistitutor had apparently forcefully jumped from the Black Emperor pathway's Sequence 1 Prince of Abolition to the Red Priest Sequence 0, which wasn't a neighboring pathway. As a result, he became a half-crazy true god. As his thoughts whirred, Klein quickly had a theory. This room had once held a Sequence 0 advancement ritual needed for a true god. Of course, according to the complicated ritual needed by a Black Emperor, this was only part of the requirement. The pathway that represented war had clearly required the entire continent to be in chaos and at war to match in scale. And Blood Emperor Alistitutor doesn't have the corresponding Sequence 1 Beyonder characteristic. So his Red Priest potion requires 3 Sequence 1 angels or sealed artifacts to provide him with the Beyonder characteristics. There happens to be 3 high-back chairs here. Yes, the evil spirit suspected to be Red Angel Medici said that to help it escape its seal, one should find direct descendants of the Sauron, Einhorn, and Medici family, and then extract 10 milliliters of blood and mix them with holy water. Sauron and Einhorn wield the Hunter pathway and are also angel families of the Red Priest Beyonder pathway. They've existed since the 4th epoch to this day. One of them has already waned, only capable of controlling the spy network and a military faction in Intis, while the other remains the royal family of Fasak. Thoughts flashed through Klein's mind as he had a new belief regarding what had happened in the room, as well as the true identity of the evil spirit. On the other 2 high-back chairs sat the ancestors of the Sauron and Einhorn families, Sequence 1 angels. Together with War Angel Medici, who very likely possessed the pathway's uniqueness, all the main ingredients of the Red Priest potion were gathered. And that evil spirit is highly likely to not be the pure Red Angel Medici. It might include the remnant psyche and hatred of the Sauron and Einhorn family's ancestors.
Man, this place once sacrificed 3 Sequence 1 angels. Before they died, their curses and the ritual itself left effects, making this room become abnormally horrifying, as well as sealing it. Thankfully, I reported this to the churches ahead of time to let them deal with it. Otherwise, we might have died here if we relied on ourselves. It would be the same even if Miss Sharon and I advanced to Sequence 4. We would become food for the evil spirit.
Klein felt a sense of fear and joy. Meanwhile, he began to understand the reason why the Red Priest card had landed in the hands of the evil spirit. After all, the former highest-ranking members of a pathway were buried here in this underground ruin. The The convergence of Beyonder characteristics would naturally lure Beyonders of the same pathway over without any deviations. Furthermore, as Roselle once said, whatever separates will definitely converge, and whatever converges will definitely separate. After Blood Emperor Alista Tudor perished, the true God characteristic he possessed, which is the sequence 0 characteristic, will likely split into 4 pieces. One is the uniqueness, an abstract item or concept, while the remaining 3 are 3 sets of sequence 1 Beyonder characteristics. If it wasn't because of that, the corresponding Beyonder pathway wouldn't have any more sequence 1s when someone becomes a god.
Could 1 or 2 of these sequence 1 Beyonder characteristics be attracted, entering the sealed room? This is likely one of the reasons why the card of blasphemy was lured over.
The more Klein thought, the more he felt that he had previously underestimated the evil spirit.
They live up to being angels who advanced from conspirers.
Standing under the tree, Klein controlled Seigneur to say,
Perhaps it really is a ritual. It's related to Blood Emperor Alista Tudor. The scale and level involved must be great.
Sharon added after silently listening.
Sauron, Einhorn, Medici.
Miss Sharon is also suspecting if the 3 highback chairs once belonged to different angels from the details requested by the evil spirit. Klein thought for a moment, and he divulged something through Seigneur.
Blood Emperor Alista Tudor is likely a true god from the Hunter pathway. The card of blasphemy is represented by the Red Priest.
Sharon remained silent for a few seconds as though she came to a realization regarding certain matters as she said.
That card is gone.
She was referring to the Red Priest card which the evil spirit had formerly shown them.
Perhaps that evil spirit had long escaped before the Nighthawks and Machinery Hive Mind destroyed this place.
Klein shared his theory.
And it had taken away all the Beyonder characteristics and that Red Priest card.
Sharon silently surveyed the area and said,
It's very crafty. It wouldn't leave behind any obvious clues.
That's right. The Beyonder characteristics outside the sealed room are clearly not at sequence 4. To an evil spirit who was once a king of angels, they don't have any allure. Likewise for the Red Priest card. It can be understood that it took away the things in the room, but why didn't it leave anything? It's like telling others something like, "Haha, I've fooled you. I've already successfully escaped. Catch me if you can." Wait, perhaps that's exactly what it wishes to convey.
As Klein thought, he suddenly found it amusing as he made Seigneur speak.
No, being crafty doesn't necessarily equate to not leaving clues. The sequence 8 of the Hunter pathway is provoker.
At that moment, the red angel that surfaced in his mind had the picture of Anderson hood over it. Sharon listened silently as she gaped her mouth slightly, but she didn't say a word. Similarly, Klein was speechless. He felt that the Beyonders of the Hunter pathway truly had a crystal-clear style. In comparison, the red-haired Helene didn't appear anything like someone from the Sauron family. However, she was rather talented at provoking Vice Admiral ailment. Yes, back then, the Sauron family members also infuriated Roselle terribly. Klein silently exhaled as he lampooned. The silent mood was soon broken by Klein. Seigneur looked around and said a joke.
Perhaps that's the reason why they were captured and brought here.
Who was helping Alista Tudor?
Sharon's translucent figure asked, but she didn't seem to look forward to the answer.
Perhaps it's the 6 deities.
Klein recalled the 6 deity statues in the hall. However, he had second thoughts.
However, the 7 deities supported the Trunsoist Empire. The Sauron and Einhorn families were powerful aristocrats of the empire. Of course, it cannot be ruled out that they first supported Tudor and later had a falling out after he went mad.
If it's not the 6 deities, does it mean that there are other deities supporting Alista Tudor? Who would it be? Klein thought in silence. Sharon didn't stay any longer as she floated up to the surface, returning to the tree. Klein stored away Seigneur's wraith, allowing it to enter the gold coin inside the iron cigar case. Then he asked in passing,
Actually, I've always been curious. Where do the powers of pure evil spirits and wraiths who do not have Beyonder characteristics come from?
The spirit world.
Klein nodded and looked at the soil beneath his feet.
The conservation of Beyonder characteristics, but the source of Beyonder powers isn't necessarily the same? Yes, perhaps the spirit world itself is the product of some Beyonder characteristics. I'll continue investigating the whereabouts of the evil spirit. I'll inform you if there's anything.
He planned on asking a Rhodes later. With that said, he took out a pen and paper, scribbled down the method to summoning his messenger, and handed it over.
You can write to me if there's anything.
Sharon received the piece of paper and seriously looked at it.
I'll be in the Bravehearts Bar. Letters can be mailed to 126 Guard Street, Hillston Borough. Address it to Ma'am Merriam.
All right.
Klein stuffed his pen into his pocket. In front of Sharon, he used a ritualistic dagger to create a wall of spirituality and resealed the iron cigar case. Following that, he crossed the street to stop a carriage like a gentleman, sending Sharon all the way back to the Backlund Bridge area. After doing this, he returned to the high-end hotel in Hillston Borough. Midway, he changed his appearance and switched carriages. Byam. Inside the seaweed bar, Danitz, who had spent some time drifting at sea, once again stepped back into the city of generosity. He planned on helping the resistance handle some matters. He pressed down on his cap, sat at the corner of the bar counter, and prepared to first hear about the recent news. He didn't wish to become a bounty reward due to untimely or inaccurate intelligence. At this moment, he heard an adventurer beside him say to his companion,
Hey, do you think German Sparrow will get someone to claim Admiral of Blood's bounty on his behalf?
Danitz subconsciously looked up, looking at the speaker with a blank, confused look. Chapter 737, Official Appearance.
Why would the madman German Sparrow need to find someone to claim Admiral of Blood's bounty on his behalf? That's not right. Why would he be able to claim the bounty?
Danitz suddenly snapped out of his confusion and grasped the crux of the matter. He immediately lowered his head to prevent himself from exposing his shock and confusion. The adventurers beside him continued their conversation. How would that be possible? No one would dare to claim it on his behalf. That's right, unless they wished to bear the wrath of the Church of Storms or selling out German Sparrow. 42,000 pounds. If I can receive that sum of money, I'll immediately head to Backlund to be a tycoon. Haha, wouldn't you be enjoying yourself in the Red Theater for half a year first? Perhaps German Sparrow can claim it from Intis, Fasak, or Fainapotter. Although it wouldn't be as much as 42,000 pounds, it's definitely in no way a low amount. As the adventurers conversed, they began imagining their lives after obtaining 42,000 pounds. They even had a conflict of opinions and began arguing with flushed faces.
No way. Are they implying that German has finished off Admiral of Blood? No, although that madman always had the intention of doing so, he lacks the required support that he needs. He needs to work with Captain Anderson Hood?
Danitz, male, stood up, pressed down his cap, and kept his head down. He rushed towards the billiard and card rooms where there were newspapers placed there. Just as he left, the few adventurers from before looked at his back and spoke in hushed tones. Do you recognize him? It's obvious that something is wrong with how he was acting so suspiciously. I didn't get a good look, but I think he's a pirate who's here to gather intel. An adventurer gestured, slicing his hand across his throat. Shall we? Another adventurer stopped his companion's actions. Perhaps it's someone we can't afford to offend. Let's wait and see. Danitz, male, entered an empty billiard room, came to the corner, and picked up a stack of newspapers. He quickly flipped through them, and slowly, his expression twisted.
What did that madman do? He really finished off Admiral of Blood. It's only been a few months, and his strength has risen to such a level. Furthermore, the papers didn't even mention Anderson Hood.
Danitz, male, was alarmed and thankful that he wisely chose to submit in front of German Sparrow. Otherwise, people would have long seen the news of him being hunted in exchange for bounty money.
No. Back then, my death wouldn't have been published. Man, German Sparrow is really a member of a cult.
As he thought, Danitz, male, suddenly froze like a statue. That was because he was apparently, probably, likely a member of that cult.
Haha. The church and military often likes to exaggerate. Yes, it's a secret organization, not a cult.
Danitz, male, consoled himself before having the feeling that the organization backing Gehrman Sparrow was surprisingly mysterious and abnormally powerful. The successful hunting of Senor, one of the 7 pirate admirals, was evidence. Danitz, male, exhaled as he apprehensively praised the fool inwardly, expressing his desires to handle matters seriously. In a small building near the Governor General's office, Eland, male, and Oz Kent, male, walked out. Eland, male, sighed as he wore his captain's hat. It's finally over. Oz Kent, male, rubbed his red brandy nose and added with a sigh.
That's right.
They had been interrogated while separated for 2 full days because of Gehrman Sparrow. They were faced with interrogators who were best at such matters. Thankfully, Eland, male, had never hidden anything from the beginning. He had reported to his superiors that Gehrman Sparrow was of unknown origins, but that he was friendly to the military. It had nothing to do with him since the decision of making this crazy adventurer an informant while having his background investigated was made by the higher-ups. As for Oz Kent, male, there weren't any problems at all. He had followed regular protocol when claiming the bounty for Gehrman Sparrow. As they slowly walked towards the entrance in the middle of the garden, Eland, male, said with a sigh.
Who knew that Gehrman Sparrow was that crazy and powerful?
According to the little information that they knew, finishing off Admiral of Blood was just one of the most ordinary and trivial matters that Gehrman Sparrow had done that day. And such a crazy person had made the choice of entering the dangerous Banshee to save a few passengers and crew members who had merely expressed their friendship to him. Eland, male, later learned that the dangers lurking in Banshee had far exceeded his imagination. The Church of Storms had directly destroyed the entire place.
If I had told the interrogators that Gehrman Sparrow has a soft and kind heart, they will definitely think I'm lying. Humans are really a mass of contradictions.
Eland, male, silently shook his head. After hearing Eland's poignant remark, Oz Kent, male, replied with a wry smile.
Back then, I thought you introduced me to a relatively strong adventurer. But in the end, he even finished off Admiral of Blood. Damn it. I even think he has the strength to become the 5th king. You wouldn't doubt what I say if you look at the forest and those nearby mountains. That place, it's like...
Eland, male, glanced at Oz Kent, male, and finished his sentence for him.
It's like it was blasted by the coastal defenses more than 100 times over.
Oz Kent, male, agreed with Eland's description.
That's right.
By then, the two had walked out the main entrance. Eland, male, looked at the night sky with twinkling stars and the dark crimson moon. After a few seconds of silence, he adjusted his collar and said,
Let's hope he doesn't return to the sea again.
Byam, 6 Fear Street, dressed in children's clothes. Denton, male, ran up to the study and said to his elder sister, who was practicing her sketching,
Donna, they say that Uncle Sparrow is a bad guy, a cultist, and a murderer. They even showed me the newspapers.
Donna, female, turned her head as she wrinkled her nose.
No way. Uncle Sparrow is a righteous, brave, and kind adventurer. We saw it with our own eyes. These are definitely more reliable than the papers.
She hesitated for a moment before eloquently saying,
Although he had a very terrifying and ugly appearance, it was the price for his dreams and the power to protect. Denton, remember, the papers often like to fabricate content based on rumors or hearsay.
Denton, male, nodded heavily.
Yeah, I've already cursed them.
Donna, female, praised her brother and subconsciously looked out. She saw that the street lamps had cast their light into their garden. It was tranquil, serene, and gentle. Hillston inside a high-class inn. Klein folded a white handkerchief and placed it in his left breast pocket, and he raised his hand to retrieve his half-top hat. Today was the day for the mysterious Tycoon, Dwayne Dantes, to officially appear in public. He didn't wait for the sale of the bike company's shares or the mystical items, and he planned on first using the remaining £2,962 he had to cover his initial expenses. This was sufficient, as it was equivalent to 6 to 7 years of an upper-middle-class family's income.
A Rhodes didn't enter my dream last night. This means that he's unable to sense my return to Backland without any close contact. That's a good thing. Yes, I'll contact it with the radio transceiver tonight to inquire about the evil spirit. I won't need to go through this hassle in the future.
Klein mumbled inwardly as he held his cane and walked out of the hotel. At that moment, the sun was shining through the thin mist, elating the moods of the pedestrians. Klein got onto a carriage, and he went straight for Sherwood Borough's City Family Servant Assistants Association at 9 Kenilworth Street. He planned on hiring an experienced butler and get him to organize the servants needed for a villa. In the City Family Servant Assistants Association, Baylin, female, ended a conversation with a male colleague that came to talk to her. She lowered her head to clean up the 2 drops of black tea on her lotus leaf-colored dress. At that moment, she heard a mellow and heavy voice that time had left its mark on.
Good morning, ma'am.
Baylin, female, hurriedly looked up and towards the reception. She saw a gentleman in his 40s, wearing a tailcoat made of silk and carrying a golden-laid cane. Apart from the 3 buttons on his clothes, there was a golden chain that extended into his pocket. This gentleman had a pair of deep blue eyes, and he was good-looking. Even the tiny white patches on the side of his hair had added to the air he exuded. Just a smile from him made Baylin, female, feel her cheeks turn warm. Baylin, female, hurriedly got up and said,
Sir, how may I be of service? Ah, right. How may I address you?
Klein warmly replied with a smile.
Dwayne Dantes. I wish to hire a butler, a good one.
Baylin, female, hurriedly led Klein to the guest area, and she reached out to point at a cloth sofa.
Mr. Dantes, please wait a moment. Have a seat.
Klein held a smile without rushing or nagging her. He very patiently sat down and awaited the staff to provide him with a list of names of the butlers.
What a gentleman! Oh no, I forgot to ask him what requirements he has.
Baylin, female, raised her hand to touch her cheeks and said,
Mr. Dantes, what kind of butlers are you looking for?
Klein was already prepared as he replied with a mellow voice.
It's best if they have served in a noble family before.
This aided Dantes in widening his social circle. Baylin, female, gradually grasped her professional knowledge as she said in detail.
Such butlers are rare. As you know, nobles seldom change their butlers unless they're unable to provide an effective service. Furthermore, even if they aren't able to be a butler, they're able to fill other positions in a noble household. In addition, the wealthy often have a considerable desire towards such butlers, and they're willing to offer salaries with a premium. Mr. Dantes, we do have the kinds you are looking for, but their annual salaries are above £100.
That makes the weekly salary to be about £2 and up. An ordinary butler's annual salary is £40 to £80, which is 15 solely to £1 10 solely a week. That appears to be at the level of a technical worker's salary, but the master will provide room, food, clothes, charcoal, and other necessities. A butler practically has zero expenditure. An annual salary of £100 and above is really expensive.
Klein quickly did the math as he replied as though he didn't take much notice.
No problem, as long as they're good butlers.
Chapter 738, Life of a Tycoon. Please wait a moment. Would you like coffee or tea? Baylin asked warmly. Klein laughed and replied.
I enjoyed coffee when I was younger, the rich and fragrant kind, but now I prefer black tea.
Baylin suggested with a smile.
I prefer black tea as well. Then, a cup of marquee black tea.
The coffee and tea provided to guests at the City Family Servant Assistants Association were ordinary in quality, ranging from low to medium quality. Marquee black tea was tea that Baylin had brought from home for her own enjoyment. Klein wasn't a simpleton, and he was great at observing. Just as he walked into the door, he would take in everything about his surroundings without anyone noticing. He discovered that the coffee and tea container placed in the display case were very ordinary, and he believed that the quality was definitely lacking. Therefore, he believed that marquee black tea was likely reserved by the association for VIPs, or it belonged to the lady before him. Regardless, it expressed how sincere she was. He didn't expose her as he smiled.
Thank you. You leave me unable to reject your suggestion. How may I address you, ma'am?
Baylin, just call me Baylin.
Balin said with a smile which resembled a blooming flower. She immediately briskly walked inside, and she selected suitable candidates from her colleague. Then, she returned to the reception counter, picked up a tin container, and skillfully brewed a cup of black tea.
Sigh, with a good-looking face and a good disposition while being dressed in a way that speaks volumes of my status, I can still sense the friendliness from a beautiful girl, even though I'm middle-aged.
Klein was having such an experience for the first time as he couldn't help but sigh. This made him further understand the importance of the faceless principle of ultimately being yourself. If he didn't keep this in mind and lost himself to the benefits brought about by his appearance, he would keep maintaining the corresponding appearance, resulting in him forgetting or even rejecting his former self, and he would gradually lose his identity. Soon, Balin carried a white, gold-rimmed porcelain teacup and placed it in front of Dwayne Dantes. She said with a smile,
"It still needs some time to cool down."
Klein looked down at the cup, and he said half-jokingly,
Perfect, this gives me the time to adjust my mood, to more formally face this cup of black tea.
His compliments and gratitude made Balin feel even better. She found him a true gentleman, one who knew his way with words.
"He's definitely not a believer of the Lord of Storms."
Balin combed her slightly curly brown hair, and she returned to the room to hurry her colleague. Before long, she came over with a stack of documents and sat on the single-seater beside him.
After the screening, we have 3 suitable butlers. I'll briefly introduce them to you. The first person is Mr. Asnier, age 55. He once served Viscount Yorkville, but after this Viscount had a failed mining prospect investment, his family fell into a particular financial situation, and he had to sell its land and manors while terminating many of its servants. In the past decade, he was hired by 2 tycoons, and he has contributed significantly to the management of their households.
As she spoke, Balin's brown eyes sparkled like 2 stars hid in them. She exuded the unique vibes of a teenage girl. Klein nodded slightly and said,
Then why did he leave the 2 tycoons?
Balin replied with a smile.
The first tycoon invested greatly in East Balaam, and his whole family had moved there. Mr. Asnier wasn't willing to leave Backland, so he offered to resign. The second tycoon's health isn't too good, and he had handed the family business to his son, who has a butler he trusts more. Mr. Asnier is a believer of the Evernite goddess, and his political inclinations is with the Conservative Party. He expects an annual salary of £130.
May Goddess bless him.
Klein tapped 4 spots in a clockwise manner on his chest, forming the sign of the crimson moon. Balin's eyes lit up as she asked,
Mr. Dantes, are you a believer of the goddess?
Klein nodded with a smile without explaining further.
It's no wonder he's so gentle.
Balin praised inwardly as she continued introducing.
Mr. Reback, age 48. He once served the Negan family, and he was the deputy butler for a long period of time, as well as an assistant to the butler. Later, after a transaction, he became Baron Sindris's butler. Shortly after Duke Negan was assassinated, Mr. Reback, whose contract came to an end, didn't receive a new contract from the Baron, so he had no choice but to seek our help. He's not a staunch believer of the Lord of Storms, and his personality is without problems. His political inclination is with the Conservative Party. He expects an annual salary of £120.
Klein listened silently, nodding from time to time as a response, but he didn't cut off Balin's description. Balin flipped through the documents and took a few glances and spoke again.
The third person is Mr. Walter, age 42. He had been the land steward and assistant butler at Viscount Conrad's household. Due to certain matters, he had a conflict with the butler, and he chose to leave. He expects an annual salary of £115. He's a believer of the Evernite goddess, and his political inclination is with the new party.
Orvie Island's new Governor-General is a member of Viscount Conrad's family. This family pledges loyalty to the royal family. The relevant information quickly flashed through Klein's mind. After the introduction, Balin handed over the stack of documents.
Mr. Dantes, who do you wish to choose?
Klein fell silent for a few seconds before saying with a smile,
Let's do this. Let the 3 of them come to where I live tomorrow at 9 a.m. I'll meet them and have a chat with them to make the final decision.
He knew that such associations didn't provide lodging, and it was purely an agency. Even if he made the selection right there and then, he still had to wait until the afternoon or tomorrow to see his butler. Therefore, he decided to have a small interview to select the person that matched his intentions the best.
No problem.
Balin said with a smile.
May I know your address?
Klein sipped the black tea, picked up a pen and paper from the table, and wrote down the location and name of the hotel he was staying in. Balin blurted out a question when she saw it.
You just came to Backland.
Only then did she realize that Mr. Dwayne Dantes' skin was slightly darker than normal. It was slightly bronze-colored, seemingly a result of tanning. It gave him quite a rugged flavor.
Yes, he doesn't have a Backland accent.
Balin slowly recalled more details. Klein smiled.
I came from Desi Bay. I'm waiting for an excellent butler to help me seek out a suitable house and servants.
After handing over a 3-pound deposit, he politely drank another sip of black tea and got up to bid farewell. Balin sent him all the way out of the door and watched him board the carriage.
Mr. Dantes also seems to be a tycoon. Compared to that, his bearing and gentle manliness are even more charming.
Balin stood in her spot as she casually thought. On the carriage, Klein half closed his eyes as he leaned against the wall, and he couldn't help but calculate the subsequent expenditures awaiting him.
The butler will cost around £120. Taking into account the average cost, a valet will cost £35, a chef £30, a gardener £25, a carriage driver £25, a nursery governess £20, 3 ordinary ladies' maid £15, and 3 maidservants £10. This way, just the servants alone would cost £330 a year. It's equivalent to £6 7 soldi a week. This already exceeds my salary back in Tingen. Furthermore, I'll need to have a carriage which costs about £100. I need a garden and house, and the weekly rental fee is about £2. With all the food, clothes, and charcoal expenditure for all these people, the overall cost is ridiculous. Is this the life of a tycoon?
Klein suddenly felt a little regret over choosing such a persona. He exhaled as he tried hard to ignore the matter. He took a carriage to Phelps Street in Northborough. There was a pure black cathedral here, with a clock tower on each side, producing a symmetrical beauty. This was none other than the headquarters of the Backlund Diocese of the Church of the Evernight Goddess, St. Samuel Cathedral. Klein adjusted the handkerchief on his left pocket, held a gold-inlaid cane, and strode into the cathedral and walked down the quiet aisle. Under the sunlight which penetrated the colored glass panes, he came to the main prayer hall. It was very dark, making one's mood automatically turn peaceful. Klein casually found a spot, leaned his cane, and took off his hat. He then closed his eyes and prayed. Time passed, and after listening to the preaching, he slowly got up, walked to the altar, and bowed at the bishop with short, black hair. Then, he walked to the donation box by the side. Exhaling silently, Klein took out 2 10-pound notes, 6 5-pound notes, and stuffed it inside. The bishop caught this sight through the corner of his eye as his expression couldn't help but turn soft. Typically, unless they specially solicited for donations or received donations from a deceased's will, the cathedral's donation box received tens of pounds at most. This meant that the person was a tycoon, a rich person. Chapter 739, The Encountered and the Yet-to-be-Encountered. In the main prayer hall of St. Samuel Cathedral, the black-haired bishop retracted his gaze and stopped looking at the middle-aged gentleman in front of the donation box, nor did he have any intention of chatting with him. Here, before the holy altar, he represented the church, and he was under the goddess's sight. He couldn't show more warmth towards anyone because of their generous donations. However, he remembered the gentleman's good looks and mature, refined disposition. He planned on attempting to get to know him when the opportunity arose in the future. Seeing the final note slip into the donation box, Klein closed his eyes and turned to leave. When passing the preaching bishop, he deliberately glanced at the clergyman and smiled with a nod. The bishop, male, returned with a warm smile as he tapped his chest 4 times in a clockwise fashion. Klein wasn't in a hurry to make contact with the relevant personnel. He needed his actions to adhere to logic and not to have any jarring actions that would incur suspicion. He silently and coolly turned to the side to give way to another devotee, and he made way down the aisle back to his seat. He then picked up his hat and cane before walking out of the cathedral. At that moment, with the preaching done, the devotees either went forward to the donation box to express their sincerity, or they got up to leave without feeling that there was anything wrong. After all, it wasn't compulsory. Even a devotee who passionately donated was unable to donate money every time. It usually depended on the family's exact situation, doing it once or twice every 1 to 2 weeks. At the level of a commoner, each donation was in the form of pennies, while middle-class devotees ranged from 3 to 5 solely. The wealthy and nobles used pounds, but they didn't exceed 100 pounds. This was under ordinary circumstances. During the Evernight Goddess's Holy Memorial Day every year, which was the Winter Gifts Day, the amount donated would increase several times. The commoners with a little bit more cash to spare would choose 2 to 3 solely, while the middle class donated around 5 pounds. As for the members of high society, they directly donated to the diocese bishop or church's charitable organizations, ranging from several hundred pounds to a few thousand pounds. Winter Gifts Day was the day in a year when the night was longest. It was believed to be the birthday of the Evernight Goddess. After leaving the cathedral, Klein stood at the square outside. He watched idly as pigeons flew up, circled around, and landed. He even bought some food from a nearby street hawker. He leisurely fed the pigeons, and he had no plans on flipping through the advertisements in the newspapers to find a suitable residence in Northborough, since it was the butler's mission. An excellent butler that had resided in Backlund for many years had ought to know the different nobles and tycoons, as well as the best middle-class individuals who could provide their masters with help. He would know which streets to live in and, from there, purposefully choose a residence. The interaction between neighbors was the first step for a newcomer to enter the relevant circles. Be it the Carlton Club where members of the Conservative Party gather, the Club of the Free of the New Party, or the various in-service and veteran clubs for the military, they also require a recommendation before any contact can be made.
This is also the so-called club politics in the kingdom.
Klein reined in his thoughts as he considered what he should do after he was done setting up the pigeon-feeding persona he created. After careful consideration, he discovered that there was really nothing that needed his immediate attention. This was because his plans were stuck on the surface. Hence, he planned on enjoying an expensive and sumptuous lunch. This was an action Dwayne Dantes ought to have, and it was also a result of Klein's own curiosity. In the months when he was in Backlund, he didn't manage to muster the courage to head to the most famous restaurants in the big city to broaden his horizons. He kept choosing one of the 4, his own dining hall, the buffet cafeteria of the Quelite Club, the ordinary restaurants by the streets, and Lawyer Jurgen's dining hall. Otherwise, he would head to East Borough and settle his breakfast and lunch in what seemed like a very oily coffee shop.
Laborie Restaurant? Their head chef is said to be from Earl Hall's family. He has provided tycoons, successful lawyers, high-ranking government officials with usually hard-to-come-by flavors. Earl Hall had apparently invested in this restaurant and holds quite a major stake in it. This restaurant mainly serves local Backlund cuisine. It's very famous for its desserts, but its price is horrendous. Intis Srenzo Restaurant. It serves the most authentic Intis cuisine. Many of the specialty dishes use Roselle's name, claiming that it originated from the Emperor's palace dishes. Besides, it's not like most of the restaurants of the same class where they only offer a few main dishes every day. It has a wide variety.
Klein recalled the information of the top restaurants he had read from the papers and magazines, and he finally decided on trying out the Emperor's palace dishes. He didn't stay any longer as he got on a horse carriage and headed for the Intis Srenzo restaurant in West Borough. At the entrance, Klein handed his coat, hat, and cane to a red-vested waiter as he asked,
"Are there still any available seats? I didn't make a reservation."
"Yes, sir."
The red-vested waiter didn't show any abnormal behavior as he humbly asked,
"Sir, is this your first time here? Are you alone?"
Klein nodded frankly and smiled.
"Yes."
"Then, may I have the honor of introducing you to some of our most unique dishes and fine wine that our restaurant has to offer?"
As the waiter spoke, he led the guest in.
That's exactly what I need.
Klein passed through the beautifully decorated door, and he saw walls that nearly reflected golden light. Instantly, he felt as though he was in a gold vault. Then, he noticed oil paintings hung on the walls, marble statues that were placed at suitable locations, as well as golden objects that were embedded or adorned in different spots. The attendant warned him.
Please watch your step.
As he led Klein to a spot by the window, violin music played in the background of the restaurant. The waiter brought him a food menu and a wine menu as he flipped it open and introduced.
These are our most famous dishes: red braised tagine beef short ribs, black truffle porcini mushrooms, Intis-styled foie gras. I would like to point out that our foie gras comes directly from the Bonus farm in Champagne province in the Intis kingdom.
As Klein listened to the waiter's introduction, he browsed through the menu written in ancient Fasak as the prices caught his eyes. After introducing the main dishes, starters, and desserts, the waiter began explaining how the wines should be matched. Finally, he said,
The Champagne red wine and white wine we have all come from a famous brewery from Champagne province. We even have Ormir red wine from 1330. Its price is £126. If you wish to purchase it, you can take it along with you or store it with us, drinking a cup every time you come.
£126. I can already hire an excellent butler with that.
Klein smiled with great grace.
Your dishes and wine are excellent. It's really difficult to choose.
The red-vested waiter gave a hospitable smile.
You can choose the chef's recommendations for the day. It will be an authentic and delicious in-taste meal arranged by our main chef. There are 3 choices: £15, £10, and £8.
I don't want any of them.
Klein leaned back slightly as he smiled.
I'll have the £15 set meal.
All right.
The red-vested waiter took away the menus, and he walked towards the kitchen. Klein drew a breath and slowly exhaled as he casually observed the area before him. Suddenly, he saw a familiar figure. It was a lady wearing an olive-green dress. She was tall, with an excellent figure. She wore a black, out-of-fashion bonnet, with a fishnet veil hanging down and concealing her face. As a faceless, Klein had a strong ability to discern the external characteristics of humans. He immediately identified the lady. Queen Mystic, Emperor Roselle's eldest daughter, Bernadette Gustave. He wasn't in a rush to look away as he naturally moved his gaze to the side. Bernadette, female, didn't seem to notice anything abnormal as she disappeared around the stairwell.
Why would she appear here? Right, this restaurant's specialty is Emperor Roselle's palace dishes. It's nothing like the Chinese cuisine I thought it would be. He probably doesn't know how to cook and at best is able to describe the concept. There are stir-fried dishes here. Could the owner behind the scenes actually be her? Why is she here in Backland instead of floating out at sea? Hasn't she found Hero Bandit Black Emperor?
Klein sat down with a calm expression as questions arose in his mind. Meanwhile, on the streets, a carriage was driving towards the Intis Srenzo restaurant. Sitting in the carriage was Aaron Series' family. This famous surgeon was a member of the Quelite Club, a good friend of Sherlock Moriarty. He had once sought out the detective to handle Willa Septon's matter. Ever since his wife became pregnant, he found his luck had become rather good. His business was improving by the day, and his income was rising by the month. He recently successfully completed Baron Cinders's surgery, and he received the commendation of this newly promoted noble. He was invited to the Srenzo restaurant to have lunch with him. Aaron smiled as he said to his wife.
It's said that the ice cream is pretty good.
His wife was a black-haired beauty, and she was already obviously pregnant. She smiled demurely and said,
I'm more looking forward to Emperor Roselle's palace dishes.
Aaron tersely acknowledged as he looked out the window.
We're almost there.
Just as he said that, his wife held her tummy and frowned.
It hurts a little.
Aaron, who wasn't a first-time father, immediately checked on her and didn't discover any problems, but his wife was feeling greater discomfort. The child in her womb seemed to be pulling a tantrum.
I think I won't go over there. I wish to return home to rest.
Aaron thought for a while and said,
I'll accompany you home.
He immediately ordered his valet.
Get down here and head to the restaurant to apologize to Baron Sindris on my behalf.
After the carriage began its return, the discomfort that Aaron's wife suffered was relieved. By the time she walked through the doorstep, everything was normal. She pointed at her tummy, exasperated.
It appears like he doesn't want to eat ice cream.
Achoo. In the Intis Srenzo restaurant, Klein, who hadn't spared any dish, felt the pinch but began enjoying his ice cream in satisfaction. Midway, he found his nose itchy as he sneezed into a piece of tissue paper he pulled out. Westboro. In a dark house, Furs, who had already advanced to astrologer, participated in all kinds of beyonder gatherings, in search of the possibility to earn money. She owed Zio 220 pounds, and she was even suspected by her good friend of being involved in illegal gambling.
I can't even afford to buy my essential crystal ball.
As her thoughts wandered, Furs suddenly heard a member at the gathering say,
I wish to sell a moon puppet.
Chapter 740, Self-Recommendation. Moon Puppet. Furs's heart palpitated as she refocused and looked at the gathering participant who had just spoken. The man in a black iron mask had already taken out a small puppet and showed it to everyone.
I have a friend who discovered a series of graves deep in the southern continent's Paz Valley. This puppet was stuck in the deceased's right eye socket.
Furs observed the puppet seriously, just like the other gathering participants. She discovered that it was slender, and its entire body resembled a tiny wooden piece that had been engraved with crescent-like eyes and a mouth. Embedded in it were dried grass and flowers. Furs mumbled inwardly.
Doesn't look like anything special.
Her spiritual perception didn't sense anything as her pen-wielding hand continued hovering over a bronze-green notebook. The man in the iron mask continued the introduction.
My friend and I are unable to determine what use this puppet has, and we can only suspect that it's not simple. It might also hide quite a secret. 60 pounds. For just 60 pounds, you can have it. This price is very fair. Even if it has nothing to do with mysticism, it's not a bad antique worth 40 to 50 pounds. That is to say, you'll be spending 10 pounds to have a chance of a pleasant surprise. To you, this is a small sum of money.
A very tempting explanation. This gentleman is likely a successful salesman. However, I don't even have 10 pounds.
As Furs engaged in a self-deprecating laugh, she didn't believe that anyone would buy the so-called moon puppet of unknown origins and usage. Just as she had that thought, she heard a female voice which was deliberately suppressed.
50 pounds.
Is she too rich, or is she willing to try her luck?
Furs subconsciously turned her head to look at the speaking person, only to see the lady wearing a hooded long robe. Her face was hidden in the shadows. At that moment, the owner of the moon puppet laughed.
I'll be more inclined to keep it for myself. Perhaps there might come a time when I discover what's so special about it.
As he spoke, he realized that no one was offering a better price. He immediately said,
Of course, as a gentleman, I'll satisfy your wish, since you have expressed your desire and have given a reasonable price.
Deal.
The hooded woman replied with a deep voice. Soon, the gathering's attendant helped them complete the transaction. Furs noticed that the lady's hand was trembling slightly after she received the moon puppet.
She places great importance on the item. She might actually know what's so special about the puppet. Moon puppet. Moon from the southern continent.
Furs suddenly made connections and recalled the few primordial moon believers who Mr. Moon was searching for. She began having a suspicion that the hooded lady was one of them, or that she had a connection with them. Of course, she had zero evidence. She didn't even have much of a compelling reason to have such a guess. Phew. Furs silently exhaled as she decided to find a way to verify her theory. She casually moved the hard-covered notebook in her hand, making a yellowish-brown goatskin appear. On the piece of paper were all kinds of patterns that formed an ancient, mysterious picture of unknown intent. This was one of the pages of Lamino's travels, and it recorded a particular beyonder power. It wasn't a recorded power which Furs had gathered herself, but one of the 5 original pages when she received it. Furs looked up, and she pretended to observe the transactions of the others while fully taking in the hooded lady's situation. She discovered that there was a mosquito with dark brown spots on a nearby wall and unknown worms that were slowly squirming on the ground. Furz's finger naturally slid across the yellowish-brown goatskin's pattern as a complicated symbol quickly formed in her mind. Silently, and without showing any odd signs, she felt that she had understood the brown pattern, as her thoughts connected with the other parties. The brown-spotted mosquito flew at a low height. It circled beneath the hooded lady and carefully clung to her front. The mosquito's vision was different from a human's since an incomprehensible scene appeared in Furz's mind. But it soon disintegrated and reformed into a rather normal scene. The hooded lady had a rather curved outline with dark skin. Her brows were thin and the corners of her mouth drooped significantly. Furz immediately recognized her. She was none other than the primordial moon believer, Windsor-bearing, who Mr. Moon was searching for.
An effective clue is worth £100, and directly finding her means £500.
Furz recalled the reward as she immediately became flustered. Her first reaction was to drive the mosquito to bite Windsor-bearing and suck her blood. That way, she could later use astromancy to directly lock onto her location. However, she gave up the idea after struggling for a moment. That was extremely taboo in a Beyonder gathering. If she were discovered, she would definitely be attacked by all the participants of the gathering, and the host of the gathering often had significant strength. Going too overboard made it easily detectable.
I'll just get the £100. If there's another chance, I'll consider how to lock onto her directly. I have to leave this gathering early and smear my blood over Lemano's travels to prevent myself from getting lost. That would be dangerous.
Furz repressed her disappointment as she made her final decision. In fact, her actions were already out of line. Hence, she didn't wish to stay another second longer. Hillston Borough, inside a high-class hotel. Klein stood behind an oriel window as he silently took in the crimson moon and thin clouds in the sky. Some time later, he combed the white hair around his temples and reached out to draw the curtains. Then, he went through the hassle of moving the radio transceiver back to the real world and spent the time airing out most of its smell. This time, he only waited about 10 seconds when he felt the room turn dark and eerie. He heard the radio transceiver begin to producing clicking sounds. Klein approached and saw a piece of illusory paper spew out. On the paper were words composed of Loanese.
Great Master, please look right.
Right. Klein turned his head in amusement and curiosity to his side. He saw a full-body mirror, which had already turned dark, as though it was smeared with a layer of ink. Just as a thought flashed in his mind, the full-body mirror lit up. Illusory fireworks began shooting inside the mirror as it burst and scattered down in a beautiful and dazzling display. Meanwhile, the full-body mirror produced a line of golden Loanese words.
Welcome back, Great Master.
At that moment, although a Rhodes didn't produce any sound, Klein had the baffling feeling that it was hysterically shouting. As the fireworks came to an end, the golden text distorted and formed a new line of text.
Great Master, your loyal and humble servant Rhodes wishes to ask you how I might be of service to you.
Klein was already very accustomed to this, as he said in a practiced manner.
Answer my questions.
The golden line of text reformed again.
Thank you for your answer, you may ask.
Prepared, Klein said.
Where did the evil spirit and William Street go to?
The full-body mirror's golden text froze for a few seconds before they slowly disappeared. As for the blooming fireworks in the background, they first blurred before a new scene became clear. It was that of an abandoned chapel where withered vines crawled over its walls, and gray stones were strewn everywhere. Klein found it rather familiar. It was where he and Sharon had once conversed with the evil spirit. The scene drew close as Klein saw that in a corner of the collapsed chapel was a tiny pit that wasn't too deep. There were clear signs of it being dug up with one's fingers.
Miss Magician mentioned it before.
As Klein's thoughts surfaced, the scene produced a cold voice that hid a smile.
It's a pleasure working with you.
As those words came out of the soil, The scene immediately turned distorted like a water surface being stirred before the scene completely shattered.
Pleasure working with you. Who did the evil spirit speak to? To make an angel from the hunter pathway use such a tone, the person opposite it mustn't be someone of a lower level. That person might even be an angel. However, why would he use his hands to dig? He should have a much easier method that didn't waste that much time. The angel is also restricted in a certain sense. Just like that grandpa in Leonard's body. Right, Leonard was in Backland back then. This is a clue, but there are other possibilities. Something at the level of an angel doesn't equate to being an angel. The evil spirit controlled Baronet Pound to contact someone? From the looks of it, the Intis and Faceac spies were just a smokescreen that was deliberately set up by the evil spirit, as expected of a conspirer.
Thoughts ran through Klein's mind as he said to Rhodes.
Second question. I have 3 butlers to choose from. Who do you think is the most suitable?
Golden Loanese words appeared one after another.
If you choose Reebach and Walter, there might be an additional development. Osnia is the most professional, but he's also the most ordinary.
The 2 who are formerly under the service of Duke Negan and Viscount Conrad do allow for additional development.
Klein nodded in thought.
It's your turn to ask.
At this moment, a bunch of golden text appeared.
Great Master, what do you make of me being your butler? As long as you bring me out of the Church of Steam, I can become the best butler in the world.
Klein hesitated for a second as he replied, mincing his words.
It's not suitable at the moment.
The golden text in the full-body mirror darkened instantly before it lit up again, reforming the words.
All right. Your loyal and humble servant, Rhodes, will patiently await the day.
Immediately following that, the full-body mirror produced a complicated picture with some footnotes.
This is a rune formed with the corresponding symbols and magical labels. Great Master, as long as you are in Backland, writing it on some paper is equivalent to summoning me.
A mixture of concealment and mystery-prying symbols. Klein identified the rune and said,
Okay,